All right, folks, welcome to another episode of the Music City Drive-In, brought to you by the Drive-In Podcast Network. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, Jacob and I are going to try something a little bit different. We're going to tackle some hot topics across the world of film, television, across the entire board. Obviously, as always, I'm joined by my partner here, Jacob. How are you, bud?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to get back into talking about movies and stuff again. So
Yeah,
it
it's pretty
should be
crazy.
fun.
The exciting thing, obviously, of announcement just a few moments ago that the awards window is going to be your typical awards window style for this year for the Academy. The award show is pushed to the late March, which is a little bit annoying, I guess you could say. But the plus side is I do think that they need to have some sort of flexibility a little bit for the awards calendar year starting, I would assume March 1st. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. It's not really much of a surprise news wise, but I think it's very happy to know that this is where we're going to be for this year, right?
Yeah, no, it's nice knowing that it's not at the end of April, you know, um, which is just great for me. But yeah, I don't think it's been in late March ever since I think the '90s are the last time they actually had it in late March, which you know, I'll take an extra month because this is another show we could do just talking about the releases, but man, dude, it's every week. And
even
one
a
of the
couple,
trailer.
even a couple times, a couple of show or movies are dropping at the same time together. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. I mean, and that's, a trailer we're going to talk about in a little bit has the exact same release date as another very high profile movie. And so it's one of those things, it's like week by week by week, there's so much coming out. And I think giving it this like extra month will allow for at least people to not feel so pressured into rushing everything out and making it to where it's like seven Oscar films are coming out at the exact same time type of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Did they announce when the nominations will be announced?
yeah, so I'm looking right now. So nomination voting begins Thursday, January 27th, and then ends February 1st. And so nominations are going to be announced February 8th.
So it gives them the opportunity, the flexibility of January to catch up on some of the films, like you said. It does give them a little bit of a window to kind of hone in on their, because I mean it sounds about almost typical. I think they just have the award show a month and a half after announcement of nominations, which is a little bit weird, but it is what it is.
Well,
I'm kind of excited about it. So
well, it is actually really weird because I'm looking you know give a shout out since I'm using their site. Next Best Picture has like the full key dates to follow, and they actually have that the eligibility period ends December 31st of this year. So that's interesting to see. Like the eligibility period's not being pushed back, but everything else after that seems to be pushed
yeah,
back.
because typically we get the announcement the the mix of the third week of January is when we typically hear when the nominations come out, and then of course we
Mhm.
have the show at the end of or mid to late February. Like normally, typically 2 or 3 weeks after the Super Bowls, whenever we hear the awards. But I mean, I'm excited. The eligibility window is shut off on the 31st this year. That's fantastic news. I do think it gives them a little bit more. It gives them what, about 3 more weeks to kind of catch up on all of that, the 900 award films that are coming out.
Which Yeah, exactly, which makes sense with all the award
100%.
films coming out. It gives them that extra month. Um, so
And
yeah,
then
and then
speaking, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then another big thing was that they opened it back up to streaming again, which I think will be. I think I don't think this should be something for the future, but especially for this year when it's still so hybrid and so back and forth, and not a lot of things are going to be able to go to theaters because of the vast amount going. I think that was a good move, opening it back up to allow streaming movies in.
I do think so too, because it's going to be interesting. They're going to have to adapt in some way, especially with the segue here with Amazon purchasing MGM,
Mhm.
right? You know what I mean? That's huge. Over was it $8 billion they gave for MGM, which everybody's saying they're overpaying, but you understand why they did it. They had to. They're trying to be a player in the movie world, not just for award season, right? You know what I mean? They kind of established themselves a little bit this award season. They got a little bit more, they got a couple wins under their belt and stuff like that. But and this is a big purchase. You know what I mean? Obviously, they get the Bond collection, which is huge. They get the Bond franchise, but what does that do for the Bond franchise moving forward? Obviously, they're going to have to, figure that out. But what does that look for the awards season for the new Bond film as well? Because there's a lot of talk, a lot of chatter that the reason they kept delaying it is because they do believe they have an awards film there, right? So with that being said, what does that look like in the grand scheme of things, right? You know what I'm saying? So I know someone like you who is a big fan of physical media. What does that look like for physical media for, future Amazon slash MGM titles and stuff like that? But I, I'm, I think I don't care about this transaction. I think it's huge but also feel like, will the academy eventually have to adapt to some sort of hybrid saying, hey, look, if it comes out on streaming, then just maybe we need to start making these eligible for Oscars permanently. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. I think it was a good move by Amazon. There's a few big things that I'm worried about. One, it's like you said, Amazon has moved away from doing physical media for their own properties, which, um, up until I think 2019, because I really wanted Honey Boy on Blu-ray and they just didn't release it. So that's one thing that worries someone like me who is a big fan of physical media. Is this where something like Criterion comes in and takes I know Criterion's doing like a Sound of Metal release, stuff like that. So it makes me wonder how those type of films are going to play out, because I do know that, like, Paul Thomas Anderson's Soggy Bottom's going to be, and it was an MGM oh my God, film. Now it's going to be an Amazon film. So it's like, will that be released on DVD, or was that going to just be on Amazon Prime? Another thing that worries me is spin-offs, because like you said, it's got Bond, it's got the Rocky franchise. I don't want to see a spinoff of someone in the Bond universe getting a 10 episode series, or some fighter that Creed's going to have to fight getting a 10 episode series leading into the movie where Creed fights him
Well,
in the
it's
movie.
it's crazy because Michael B. Jordan does have a deal with Amazon, right? That's his
Mhm,
production company made a deal with Amazon. That's where the Tom Clancy came, Without Remorse came from,
mhm.
was their agreement. So them buying that means they have that under their umbrella. And you're right. Like, I don't want to see Rocky Balboa's great great grandson battling his way to the top in order to be like his dad on Amazon Prime for 10 episodes. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and another thing I saw that's massive is The Handmaid's Tale, which
Yeah.
I don't know how many episodes they have left. I don't know how many seasons they have left. I haven't kept up with the show. I do know that the show itself is huge. I mean, it was the first streaming show to win like best drama at the Emmys, I think. And that's on Hulu, which is a Disney property. And so it's one of those things that, is that going to go over to Amazon Prime, which is, I would argue that that's probably Hulu's biggest pull right now is The Handmaid's Tale. And so if that goes over to Amazon Prime, that's one of the things. Are people just going to start leaving Hulu? Or are people going to start, going to different things? Because I mean, Hulu's original content it's not great.
I knew it's crazy. Like, I've been doing some other work and diving into some of the Emmy stuff. I never realized how much the Emmys and Amazon Prime, like, they get a lot of love at the Emmys. They really do. Like with Fleabag, oh man, what's the other one? Mary, no, the last,
Marvelous Miss Maisel, is
yeah,
that an
Marvelous Miss
Amazon show?
Maisel. Yep. Yeah, that's an Amazon show. Like, that wins a lot of shit,
Hmm.
stuff. So, you know what I mean? So it's kind of surprising to see, kind of diving into some of this older stuff and looking at their most recent wins. They do have some good original content. It's just that they're terrible at promoting themselves. They're terrible at their interface on Amazon Prime is one of the worst interfaces you could
Oh,
ever
it's
deal
so
with.
boring. So
It's
boring.
it is, and to navigate to their original content versus the content they're uploading versus the content that's available on what IMDb or whatever it is with ads, like
Mhm.
it's all over the place. So they need to structurally change that too, especially I mean, if you're going to be a player and you're going to be taken seriously and you're going to be, if you're trying to compete with, I like Hulu's interface. I'm a big fan. I like Hulu's and I do like Netflix's. I do think HBO Max does have the best of all of them. HBO
Yes.
Max is, I think it's the best streaming service. I think it's the best app to use. I've used them all now. Like Peacock isn't all that great. The Peacock's is okay. I like Peacock's better than I do Amazon's or even Hulu's. I think, but I don't know. I think it's a big deal. Obviously, this is going to be a big deal because what is it? What's ahead? Is
Mhm.
Amazon going to still put movies in theaters? Does Amazon? I still think Amazon at some point is going to get into the theater market, right? And if they do, what does that look like? Does Amazon branch out, purchase a chain of movie theaters? And if they do they play just Amazon movies?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so many questions surrounding kind of what unfolds here. Um, but I think the more recent one, obviously, was Soggy Bottoms, and then of course with No Time to Die or No
No Time
Time
to
to Kill?
Die, House of
Yeah,
Gucci, like all of those.
yeah. Like so, there's so many different things playing, and then on top of that, with the Ricardos that was already playing on Amazon. You know what I mean? So there's so many different things that they're going to try to push for. We've already known that they cannot handle multiple films being in the spotlight for Amazon. This past season was perfect example because they did have Sound of Metal, but they also had One Night in Miami, and they just dropped the ball. Period. They got what I think two nominations for One Night in Miami. I think
I
maybe
think they got three: song,
three
supporting actor, and screenplay. Which
screenplay.
I would you know I would say supporting actor is probably a given because there were only, I mean, Lakeith Stanfield got in, so there were only really
Yeah,
like four supporting actor
yeah. Which
players,
so they could have really
and
done
then
something.
song went right in with that.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And I guess another perfect segue is talking about the infamous. Obviously, we can start by talking about how some people don't like the idea of whenever we see a trailer, we talk about awards. And the thing about it is I think there could be a happy medium for both. You know what I mean? Like there is, because there's people like us who, and more so you, who track the awards 12 months out of the year, right? You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you track them. The Last Night in Soho is dropping in prime real estate, right? You
Yep.
know what I mean? We know
October
prime
22nd.
October, November, December is that prime real estate. I think this year it'll probably start more in September than it will anything, but
Mhm.
October is and with especially with festivals and stuff like that. So with it being dropped, with it having a director that has his films do get nominations, it's going to be talked about. So with that being said, the trailer, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, it's like you said, and alluded to it, always stuck into a film, which is weird because before this trailer, I had no idea people were really doing this, but they're putting a lot of stock into, oh, Last Night in Soho looks good, but it doesn't look like an Oscar player. It looks, like trying to diminish the way it looks because it might not be an Oscar player because it's much more in the horror genre that people initially thought. I initially liked the trailer. I think it looks creepy and weird. I think Edgar Wright has such a creative and artistic kind of mind. And I thought it was a really good trailer because it didn't really tell me too much of what's going on.
That's the thing that I loved about it. There's a
Yeah,
lot of mystery surrounding it, right?
you don't really understand the dynamic between Thomas and Mackenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy's characters. You don't truly understand, which one might be real, which one might be not real, which one might be in the past, which one, something like that. Like I think it's really interesting in that whole aspect of it. But just because it might not be an Oscar player, it might be too much of a genre film, doesn't mean it can't be good.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And the
and
thing
so
about it is like if you look back in time, even if you look at Baby Driver, when you
Mhm.
watch the trailer, when you watch the movie, I mean, obviously when you watch the movie, it's a little bit of a different story, but nobody expected that to even sniff any Oscars. And then, of course, it got nominated for 3. Now, did it get nominated for the below the line stuff? Yes, but below the line stuff still matters for films
Mhm.
like this. You know what I mean? That's just the kind of stuff that we like to see. So you're right. Like you're right. See, that's the flip side about it. Is it's like, to your point, there is, if it comes out in award season and doesn't garner the awards potential, doesn't mean it's not a good film, right? There's so
Mhm.
many good films. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Do the Oscars matter? Yes, they do. They do, period. But on the flip side of that, are the Oscars telling for whether a film's good or not? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? There's so many
Mhm.
films yearly. Even the mentioned Honey Boy just a few years ago was an amazing film. You know what I mean? And what did he get? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different films that come out each and every year. That's just, but yeah, for me, I enjoyed it. I thought the cinematography, obviously, the color palette, the choosing, I think the use of the downtown, the cover of downtown was great. Um, I enjoyed it. I thought the trailer was good. I personally thought it was good, though. I don't know.
One thing I will say a lot of people are. Oh, actually, I didn't know that. So I just looked up the cinematographer, and it actually makes a lot of sense. It's the same cinematographer from Old Boy, which has like a very similar feel to this kind of movie.
Yeah.
Plus, Old Boy has my favorite action sequence of all time, so I'm actually really excited. And it's the cinematographer who's doing Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show, so that's really
Oh,
interesting. But going back to it, I feel like a lot of people are going to have the same reaction with this as like giving it Oscar hype, giving it awards hype that they're going to have when Don't Worry Darling comes out. And it's probably going to be the exact same type of psychological thriller, weird type of movie that, people are going to watch and say, oh, it looks good, but it doesn't look like an Oscar player. And,
and
I,
how long was that trailer? I think the trailer was like, I think I still have it on. No, I don't have it on my screen. We're looking at what? Maybe a two a
two
two two
minutes,
3 minute clip of the movie, right? You know what I mean? Like, we're looking at a 2.5 minute
2:12.
clip. Yeah, so we're looking at a 2.5 minute clip of a movie. That's all we've seen, right? You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And we're already like judging what we're gonna get from it. I mean, it's like the Eternals trailer. I did the same thing. I thought the Eternals trailer was not that good. I thought it wasn't, like, the difference. Okay, so, not, you can't compare the films. They're two different films, right? Obviously. But what the trailer is supposed to do is entice the viewer to one. And I think the big difference is, the teaser trailer versus the actual trailer. I didn't think the teaser trailer for Eternals did anything to really uh, spark my interest in the film, other than, of course I'm going to see it. It's Marvel. Of course I'm going to see it. It's Chloe Zhao directing. You have so many different factors there. But for me, I just didn't think that the trailer was that good. When on the opposite, last night in Soho, you watch the trailer, and I'm super intrigued because there's a lot of mystique, a lot of mystery, a lot of what's going on behind that trailer. So I just think that, you know, let's calm down on, and let's calm down with already calling it the greatest Marvel movie of all time, too, please. Like, that's just getting on my nerves. It's not even out
Yeah.
yet, guys.
No, but yeah, no, I think it definitely looks good. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for kind of when horror takes this kind of colorful
Yeah.
and out there aspect, and I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a really good movie. I really like a lot of what Edgar Wright does,
Yeah.
and I love Anya Taylor Joy and Thomason McKenzie. So yeah, so I'm very excited for it.
I just wish that I could get into Queen's Gambit. I just can't do it. I can't
Yeah,
do it, Jacob. I can't do
I
it.
I watched basically the whole thing like in one day. I loved it. I'm a huge chess head though, and so
And the thing, I just watched the first. I know I need to try to go back and do a little to try to push through it. Obviously, I think it's was like 6, 8 episodes. So you
mhm.
could easily do it, but for me, like, just the first episode was kind of boring. So, speaking of not boring, we've got a couple of movies releasing in theaters. It feels good to know that there's movies dropping in theaters tomorrow that are actually
Mhm.
going to have some sort of relevance to the box
Tonight.
office. Or tonight, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, I forgot, yeah, tonight. So, I've seen both. You've seen one of the two, and we're going to talk about the one that we've both seen, and the interestingly confusing chain of events that have happened since the embargo has dropped. I didn't think that this movie was going to be so divisive. With
Mhm.
speaking about Cruella, I'm not saying I expect everybody to enjoy every film. I just don't feel like there's a neutral spot anymore in film world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like people find a happy
Mhm.
medium, right? Like, you didn't love Saul, but you didn't hate it, right? You know what I mean? Like, it was very middle of the road for you. You know what I mean?
Mhm. The
Like
only the only reason I gave it below average is because I actually did hate the ending, but everything up
yeah,
to that I thought was pretty fine.
yeah. So, but speaking of Cruella, um, I I really like this is like it's probably genuinely the most fun I've had. I'm disappointed I didn't see it in the theater
Mhm.
because I genuinely had a blast with this film, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I felt the exact same way, and it was funny because, I don't. We're not going to get into spoilers or anything. I don't know. Are we getting into spoilers?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So there's something that happens maybe 5 minutes into the movie that I like very audibly gasp, and I immediately texted Ricky, and I was like, WTF, like, oh my God. And he was like, what? And I said, there's something that happens like 5 minutes into Cruella that just like shows what kind of movie this is going to be. And when you
Yeah,
see it, like, you know that's kind of what this kind of movie is. It's not for kids. It's not for, I'm not going to say it's anywhere near R, but it's a very PG-13 movie. A little kid's not going to enjoy this movie. And quite frankly, they might be scared of it, like with the Dalmatians and some of the kind of more aggressive parts of the movie, they might get worried about it. And so I think this movie was a massive risk for Disney, especially since it's a property less known. It's someone like
yeah,
Cruella, someone who doesn't have an origin story, someone who, one of the most notorious villains in all of Disney. It's a huge risk, but I think, I think the reward is there in that it was a very enjoyable, very entertaining type of film that, they change the entire story of Cruella de Vil, but it's something that it didn't bother me. It's something that I enjoyed watching. It's something that I
yeah.
enjoyed, diving into. And I agree. I think the kind of divisiveness is really weird. It's gotten fairly decent ratings. It's at 73% on, Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it's like fairly decent on like Metacritic and stuff. But if you go on Twitter, where you probably shouldn't go, but if you go on Twitter, it's, yeah, 61 on Metacritic. And if you go on Twitter, it's, what is this movie for? Why is this movie made? And I saw a tweet. It was either earlier today or it was the other day, and I think you also hit it like right on the head, where it's like everything has to be so one-sided,
Yeah.
where sometimes films can just be fun. Sometimes
Yes.
sometimes movies don't have to. And and I know a lot of people didn't like Army of the Dead, but that was like Army of the Dead for me. It's like a movie doesn't have to tell you some political uprising about the Cruella doesn't have to tell a story about the gender inequalities and the politics behind it and the issues that come with. No, it's, those are all very, important topics, but this isn't that movie. It's not that movie that's going to move you in a certain way or do something for you. It's a movie that's going to be fun. It's a movie that's going to be entertaining. It's a movie that, you're going to watch and you're going to say, oh, this looks pretty, this sounds pretty, this, well, it may not sound pretty, it may sound punk rock, but
Yeah,
um
exactly.
but this
I
is
get what you're
something that like
saying.
looks and sounds fun, and it's something that is exciting, and it's something that, you can watch and you can, be a part of. And I think for all that,
And
I think
well
it,
acted. And
yeah.
well acted.
I mean, it's
Like,
it's I use this scenario way too much, and I refuse to use it for this in my review, but I'll say it now. It's like a heavyweight boxing match, and it's just has two great actresses going at it, and it's just
yeah.
fun to watch this kind of chess match, back and forth of who's going to upstage who's going to do what. I know there was one scene in the vault that like really caught me by surprise, and I was like, that was clever. I just never even thought about that,
Yep. I
being a
agree.
thing. And It's just one of those things where I just think this was a purely fun, exciting, and entertaining movie.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I thought both Emmas were fantastic. I think they were even better when they were on screen together, going head to head. Like you mentioned, there's several scenes between the two that's a blast. Joel Fry, Paul Walter Hauser are both fantastic in this film as
Mhm.
well. I think they're funny. I think they bring a very comedic side to the film. Also, albeit being serious at some points too. But it's easily one of the better live action movies that we've seen from Disney. And my favorite part is, like you mentioned, it did take a risk, and it was a good risk. And uh, I always fall back on the Fast and the Furious franchise. Okay, everybody knows my love for this franchise. Am I sitting here saying that Fast 9 should be nominated for Oscars? No, I'm not. Do I expect to go to the theaters and enjoy the Fast 9? Absolutely. Why? Because I can turn my brain off. I can enjoy Vin Diesel and John Cena throwing cars at each other. I can enjoy Vin Diesel, going to the moon, planting the flag, and it's, him saying family at the end of the movie. Like, you could bookend all of that, and I'm going to be happy. You don't have to go into every movie and think, is this going to be an Oscar movie, or is this going to be like, just go in with no expectations. Like, that's why I'm very big on not watching trailers anymore. I watched the Last Night in Soho trailer just for this purpose of this show. But the only times I ever really catch trailers are on the front half of movies while I'm at the movie theater. You know what I mean? That's really the only time ever. And I like them there because I can enjoy them a little bit more just because of the surround sound and stuff like that. But I enjoyed Cruella. I thought it was very fun, very, very, very fun. And like I said, the only thing that I wish I would have saw on the big screen, because it does have a pretty cool punk rock soundtrack to go along with it. I know a lot of people are complaining about that as well. Could they have made a couple different decisions throughout? Yes, but I wasn't. Again, I think we're nitpicking just the nitpick anymore on certain films, right?
Mhm.
I also said this because if you look at the movies that have come out, what is it? Spiral, Wrath of Man, even
Nobody.
Cruella now, Nobody, all of these movies, think about this. Like, this May is technically January, right? It's technically January. Like, they're dumping
Mhm.
certain property. Now, obviously Quiet Place and Cruella don't fall into that thing, but some of these movies, like you're setting your expectations too high for some of these movies, because like when movies come out in January, what do you expect? Like, oh, it's a January dump it. Like, it would have been like the little things.
Mhm.
If COVID wouldn't have been a thing, and if the little things came out in January and you went and saw it in theaters, you would have been like, yeah, that's a January movie, right? That's why they dropped it in January. It's got two actors that are well known, but they know that it's garbage. And then for some reason SAG decided to nominate Jared Leto for a SAG award, but that's a different conversation. But I enjoyed Cruella. I thought it was fun. I thought it was funny. I thought it was quirky. And I love Emma Stone. I mean, she could do no wrong in my eyes anyway. So
Oh yeah.
that's just, she's fantastic. And she's the better Emma. So I'm just going to throw that out there too. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed that one. It comes out obviously tonight. If you see this today, tomorrow, this weekend, it's going to be available on Disney Plus Premium Access as well for $30. So if you're not comfortable going to a movie theater, totally understand. That's up to you. Um, Also coming out obviously is The Quiet Place 2. I did see that. I think it's fantastic. I think it's better than the first one. I think John Krasinski, I love seeing these comedic actors make this turn into this crazy twisted world. And I had a blast with that one as well. So before we go, any thoughts on Cruella's potential awards at all?
Um, yeah, actually, I really think it would honestly blow my mind if this movie, okay, it would be catastrophic if it wasn't nominated for hair and makeup and costumes. It would honestly probably blow, and I know we're so early and there's so much that can happen, but with the vast amount of costumes and the different hairstyles and the different makeup and having the makeup all across her face that says the future and everything like that. It would honestly surprise me if this didn't win, at least one of the costumes or, makeup or hair or something like that. I don't think it's really got any chance other than that. But I really think like costumes and makeup and hair is something that going into this movie, we knew that it was a possibility, but coming out of it, it's just so perfect. They love period pieces. They love, extravagant costuming like this.
Yeah, and
They
that
love,
scene,
it's
the scene
everything
that
they
you see,
love.
the scene, I think they kind of blow it by giving it away in the trailer. But when she transforms that dress,
Hmm.
that scene's a badass scene, and it's even more cool just to hear just the backdrop around the story, right? You know what I mean, of what kind of transpires throughout that process. But there's certain things you look at. The costume design is just it is amazing throughout this entire film.
Hmm. But I will say one thing that I can guarantee will never touch this in awards is VFX. That's the one thing that for me really held me back, and I appreciate how much money and how much time they put into costumes. I wish they would have done that for the VFX because there were times where it just looked so shoddy. Um, but yeah, I think costumes and hair and makeup. I think those are as close. I'm not going to say locks because we're almost a year out, but um, I think those are as close to locks as you can be at this time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap this up?
Uh, Nothing that I can think of. I think we got on everything.
Perfect. All right, so guys, like I said, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do this a little hot topic show. We're gonna try to do it every week. We'll see what our schedules look like, but just to kind of talk about what's going on in the world of film. We're having a lot of fun with the blockbuster shows, the blockbuster showdowns. If you missed this past week, the Music City Drive-In team took on 50 Years of Music podcast, which was a lot of fun. This weekend, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, Team MCDI is taking on Team Geek Vibes Nation. That should be a lot of fun as well. Um, if you're watching this and you want to take on the Music City Drive-In crew, all you have to do is reach out to me on Twitter at Ricky Valera _ and put yourself a team of 3 together. Come on the show and challenge the guys. I think it'd be a lot of fun to, bring some other people on the show. We've got a couple of teams lined up over the next couple weeks, but that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, make sure to follow Jacob on Twitter at tbear57. Follow myself, Ricky Blair _ Make sure to go over to the musiccitydrivein.com for all the latest articles, movie reviews. You can check out Jacob's review of Cruella. You can check out my review of The Quiet Place too. And yeah, until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.